So, hello everyone, our Changemaker Voices audience. Welcome to all of you. And today we're having another powerful episode of Changemakers Voices, where we celebrate leaders who turn purpose into action
Mm.
and healing into impact. I'm your host, Vicky Ferrer, joined by my amazing co host, Maima Jones. And by the way, I'm a personal power and public presence coach, corporate trainer, and a firm believer that real change begins with one courageous voice.
Mm.
I offer courses that help professionals speak with clarity, lead with confidence, and show up with authentic impact. I've worked with professionals, women, and youth across Asia, the Middle East, and now in the US. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's this: behind every change maker is a story that dared to be told. And this show is about those stories. It's about amplifying voices that spark transformation in families, communities, and beyond. And today, oh, we have someone extraordinary, someone whose work touches hearts, minds, and entire communities. So, Maima, it's your turn.
Okay. It's so difficult to go to be the second to that, It's
Yes, Maima.
like she
Oh.
said, like Vicky said, the amplifying of voices, even through stories, because stories that which go in places even when we're not there in present, when we cannot be present, literally but our stories continue. And having this particular platform, listening to stories, listening to some of the whys behind and those stories, so that the voices can continue to be lifted, that regardless of where it comes from, the experiences that each of us glean on this earth can impact that person, those persons, no matter where they are or where they come from. So it's great to be here. It's great to have Casey Muze with us today. I am Maima Jones. I am an educator, a former teacher, and now I work within the online space where I help my clients achieve impact and income, leveraging their irresistible offer. So it's great to be here. It's great to, like I said, to have Casey with us again. Vicky, thanks again for being here also. The time that each of us has is so critical. And just to say yes to this particular interview, Casey, we don't take it for granted, okay? So
Yeah.
we have begun already, and I have this part that Vicky has given me, so I'm going to read some of my lines, because that helps to maximize our time.
Yeah.
Welcome again, Casey.
Yes. Thank you for having me. It's an
Yeah.
honor and a privilege, and to be in the presence of such good energy is amazing. So, but yeah. Let's.
Well, thank you. I've heard some great things about you. Of course, having told Vicky this, I went on, I think you have a website. And I
Yes.
think I went on the website and I'm thinking, I'm going to continue reading his story. And then maybe even in the interview, I could bring us some of those information that I'm getting. And I'm thinking, you know what? We have only 30 minutes but then hearing from what Vicky said. Just now,
Yeah.
but even before you came on, about the person you are, how she is, I mean, how she admires you. So it's great to have you here, and I'm excited. So you're joining us for this, for this particular uh, 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 recording audience. We come again to say, introducing Casey. Casey is a music therapist, keynote speaker, and a champion of rhythm-based healing for daycare youth, neurodivergent individuals, and memory care residents. His mission, helping people regulate, reconnect, and rebuild identity through sound.
Mm.
Welcome again, Casey.
Yeah.
Welcome, Casey. And Casey, before we dive in, give us one word that describes how you're feeling today.
Oh, good Lord. Good Lord. Uh, I'm gonna give you a word that was used by a barista at a coffee shop today. She actually wore the word on her hoodie when I asked her how is she doing today, and
Mm.
she said lovely because she was wearing a shirt, a sweatshirt that said lovely. So I'm gonna
Oh,
echo that and say today I am doing lovely.
amazing.
Yes,
Maima?
yes, yes. Well, thank you. Thank you, Casey. And it's a privilege to be with you both, okay? And having you here. So then I'll give this part to Vicky. Yes, Vicky?
So there's another one. If your rhythm had a mood, what would it sound like today?
Oh, what would it sound like? Um, I am always going to, I'm probably going to answer that a little bit simplistically and not give you an onomatopoeia today, but simply say the word paradiddle and tell you the story as to why I choose to use that word in with your question today is because today I was this morning I had the honor of being providing music therapy at one of my many daycares, right? And I was doing a really young group. I'm talking like 2 years old. Young twos is what they call this group, right? And I was guiding this group filled with young twos through the rhythmic, rudimentary knowledge and practice of what's called a paradiddle, which means you must learn your rights and your lefts, and then your lefts and your rights. And was guiding through the process of teaching 2 year olds the slow process of how to understand rights and lefts so that they could understand the paradiddle. So today, the sound that it describes my rhythm is paradiddle.
Wow, we're going to use that, Maima, in our lives. Paradiddle. So I think it's
Yeah.
Maima's turn now to ask you some questions. Casey, we
Yes.
can't wait.
Yeah.
We're excited.
Yeah,
So,
listen, if you do use the word paradiddle, it's such a word that if you use it around a drummer, they'll be like, who taught you that?
okay.
Casey Muze.
I'm- and I'm before so we are continuing to dive in Casey and Vicky. So Casey, I have three questions for you, but before doing that, I will ask you to please, if it's okay, could you please spell the word paradiddle for me, for us, for our audience?
So it depends on how old you are, because if you're in elementary school, we spell paradiddle Pair, like pair two,
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
which is really spelled PAR,
Okay.
but we relate it to two because there's a lot of counting involved, right?
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
And then we always spell raw as RAW, like raw, because we go through it and we say paradiddle.
Oh, okay.
Slowly, quickly, slow. We vary in tempo,
Amazing.
right?
Yeah.
And then we did DID.
PID.
Dole is DLE.
DLE. Oh,
Yes, the
okay.
actual spelling is PARR or PARRADIDLE.
DIDLE. Well,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
I would practice with the one you give the 2-year-olds, you know what that's. with the enunciations and and
Listen,
breaking that apart. So thank you.
Maima
listen.
and Casey, I just had an idea. If my partner and I have an argument, I would say paradiddle, and
Oh,
maybe he will cool down. What
maybe,
about that?
maybe. You probably would need to do a paradiddle as well as say it. You probably, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
All
Maima.
right. Thank you. Thank you, Casey. Now, so yes, the first question for you is as we have here, Casey, can
Hmm.
you describe the exact moment you first witnessed rhythm transform a client
Yeah,
from from regulated to calm, the
yeah.
moment you realized music could heal?
Hmm. So this was when I was doing primarily substance abuse counseling, because
Yeah.
how I started doing mental health work was in my work as a drug counselor, as a substance abuse counselor, right? And I would often integrate rhythmic interventions into my conversations with my clients. And this was during my days of providing them with teenagers, right? Um, so like middle school and high school age, right? And I had this one middle school client who I had discussed emotional regulation with, and I had a connection with that client of body tapping, right? So like high chest tapping and then clapping and then also frontal lobe tapping, right? And we would do that in threes. And what that client recognized during the conversation is it actually allowed him to slow down and decrease his anger or frustration, right? This was just in the conversation. And so I taught him 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, but also with breathing, right? So inhale, exhale, in all the way through, right? And the next time I saw this client, he was getting so mad. He was getting irritated because I had to make a school visit with him and he was getting frustrated at school. And I looked at him, looked his way, and I went,
Mm,
and he looked at his teacher and he said, "Excuse me, I need to do something just for a moment." And he started to do it, and then he started to calm down. And then he asked his teacher, "Excuse me, would you join me in doing this? Can you do this with me?" So then he taught his teacher the breath work and the tapping and the breathing and the sequence of it. And then he went back in and after his peers were making fun of him, because you know kids in school, they gonna make fun of you about everything. It don't
yes, yes,
matter. They just be mean for no reason. They be poking at
yes,
you. Even
I
things,
agree.
even things that you do that are good, they still,
Yes,
oh, you got straight A's. Oh my God, you think you so cool. Yeah, right,
yes, yes,
right.
yes.
He taught them all of the breathing, and so after that whole entire year I got reports of them doing that breath work and that tapping and that sequence all
Mm,
year long.
mm.
Yeah,
Whoa,
That is
yeah, that
great. That
so
is great.
powerful.
That's great. That is great. That is great. That's great. And his taking what you did, you were doing with him
yeah.
and also sharing that what was done with
Mhm.
others. Can you that is that is amazing. That
Yeah,
is
no, that's it's super impactful. I tell
yes.
you, that is one of the things that I when I first started drumming or thought for a moment that I could do drumming and therapy and be a music therapist, I never would have imagined I would be in a guest on interviews talking about emotional regulation and breath work,
Hmm.
attached to rhythm, attached to your heart rate, attached to your syncopation, attached to your cognitive functioning in your head, and what all of that does, right? It's insane. And so the fact that I can teach somebody one thing that is so impactful for them and so useful for them, and then they find it so necessary to tell others about it
Yes,
is
that is great.
is yeah, yeah.
That is great. That is
Words
great.
words can't express. It's good. It's
Yes,
good.
that
Yeah.
is that ripple effect, that continual impact. And sometimes none of us can determine how
Yeah.
far that impact will continue.
True.
Those are the things that I often get asked in business. What do you want to see your impact being? And I was like, well, you know what's funny about impact is if your impact is truly great, you never see where it lands
Yeah.
because it continues after you perish from the earth,
Yes, yeah,
but it also continues in geographical places where you're not physically present. Right.
yes, I agree with that.
Amen.
Yeah.
That
Amen
is
to
great.
that.
That is
Yeah.
great. That is great. Well, thank you. Thanks, Casey. The second question, what is one breakthrough you'll never forget? Whether it was a toddler settling, a
Mm,
neurodivergent teen gaining focus,
mm.
or a dementia resident suddenly reconnecting.
Yeah. I'm gonna give you none of those. In the and then
That's great.
I'm gonna
That's
give you
okay.
an outside of the box answer. So
That's okay.
one really cool moment that I was invited to come and give a emotional regulation class with drums to a dad and lad group. And for those who don't know what dad and lad is, it's a father-son group.
Mm,
And so to bridge the connection that is unheard or missed between father and son with emotional connection and attachment. So I did was a small group of I think 15-ish or so dads and lads, fathers and sons, right? And so guiding them through the slow down, the pace of being still and listening intentionally, intentfully in communication, right? What are they really saying? What emotion can that be attached to? Look at the historical reference of it between what they've been through and within the relationship, right? Look at the what's called biopsychosocial framework of what they're saying, right?
mm,
So to be able to give that experience to a father-son event was amazing. And then also to get the feedback from the fathers and say, bro, listen, I thought this was gonna be a joke. I was not involved. But then when you started explaining the depth and why,
mm,
and how it works, right? And
mm,
why it's so important to think differently, right? And to be able to understand, to put myself in the place and be empathetic to my child's needs emotionally. And it's not all about just getting up and putting your bootstraps on and getting things done, but it's also about the emotion of why they're so rigid and why they are struggling right now
mhm.
and what I need to do as their father to say this thing to allow them to understand what's going on. Yeah.
Wow. 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 That is incredible. That is incredible. And that is something that is so needed
Mhm.
because even whether it's communication majors in college, communication is
Mhm.
something that we all, regardless of the age, we all are continuing to
Yeah.
learn, and be able to leverage as we
Yes.
mingle with each other, whether even
Yeah.
our own children or our
Yeah.
community at large or what have you. That is amazing.
Yeah.
That is amazing. Well, thank you for sharing that, you
Yeah.
know. That is, but then the third one, it says here, can you share a story where someone's sense of identity began to reappear through your rhythmic work, even after
Mhm.
trauma has stripped such so much away.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's super cool is, so I do a program called the Pulse of Healing, which is my trauma work program, right? And that program is founded in the framework of biopsychosocial, which, for those who don't know, it's processing what goes on with your body and how your body talks to you and how you talk to your body and the signals and the messages that are being stored within your body, right? And so you have bio there, and then you have psycho, which is how that's connected with your mind and your psyche, right? And then you have social, which is the messages that you consume from your environment. But who, you have people, places, and things with that. So you have who, right? And then you have where you go, and then what legacy does where you go continue to allow you to think, right?
Mhm.
And then you have things, right? The things that you do. All of those things are within the social aspect of the biopsychosocial framework, right? And what happens with that is I'm able to build the connection between the child and the mom through that framework, because I do a lot of those talks and those conversations with moms and or mothers or women with trauma, right?
Mm.
And so what's super cool is the connection that lands with the understanding of how your belief systems, whether negative or positive, can fester into your child,
Mm.
but also how you allow yourself to explore your own individual biopsychosocial framework so that you can empower your ability to have effective communication with yourself so that you can then believe in yourself as a mother, as a daughter, as a parent, right? Whomever, whatever connection may exist, right? So that you can believe that you are worthy, you are needing to be present, you are of value in your relationships and where they stand, right? Those are conversations that I have multiple times with mothers. And a lot of them start with me being in schools doing work with children and then walking out to these children's mothers and saying, this is what happened. This is how your child processed it. This was their reaction. This is what I would love for you to do on your free time on a weekly basis, on a daily basis, so that it continues. Also, I need you to understand that you can do this along with the medication that you're giving your child for their ADD and their ADHD, their autism and their Down syndrome, right? And this also stems from belief systems. I also need you to understand that because of this relationship with this person that your child has had previously before this conversation. And so when I say that, they start looking at the same framework and processing, dang, I had that relationship with my mother or that relationship with my
Right.
father that wasn't good. And so then they gain interest in processing it as well. Right.
That's wonderful. That is great. That
Wow.
is great. That is great. That is great. And I mean, I'm saying that is great because as a parent of five children, as well as working with kids, some and the truth, in our reality is that we all don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
So yes, so if my child is acting in such a way where there is that break and
Mhm.
and whether they are
Yeah.
angry and I'm angry at the same time, but I as a parent sometimes then would think this is outside of me, I have given what I but just listening to what you have, that connection, saying regarding even what is already happening, whether even with medications for ADHD, but there is that integrating,
Mhm.
and that so yes, we all don't know what we don't know, but the expertise that bring to the table is so needed. It's so needed, whether
Mhm.
in the education system or homes and what have you. So thank you, Casey, for sharing that and
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for the impact that you're continuing to make.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you so much, Miss
yeah,
Violet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yes.
So,
And
Case,
Vicky will
yes.
continue. We got three
Oh,
more questions for you.
yeah.
You thought you were going to start resting, but
We want to
Yeah.
take advantage of Casey while he's with us because I know he has a busy schedule.
Yes, yeah.
And Casey, tell us about a time when one of your rhythmic sessions unexpectedly shifted from helping the client to healing the caregiver who was silently
Mm.
breaking down.
Yeah. 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 So this is a dementia story, and dementia is a hard conversation to talk about, right? Because there's so many emotions there, right? And this is the story of a grandchild being the caregiver to the grandmother, right?
Mhm.
And the story of when the grandchild did not realize that the grandmother was going through dementia until 10 days later after this encounter, where the grandchild realized that the grandmother did not realize who the grandchild was. And the conversations were quite combative because the grandmother thought the grandchild was somebody else who the grandmother did not like,
Mm,
and the grandmother was saying words that were offensive and vulgar and mean. And so the grandchild was just breaking, right? And losing all spirit that could exist. And the wisdom that I was able to give the grandchild allowed them to, of course, dementia is still present, right? Still allowing them to have conversations through understanding what was going on and how to take the energy and transition it, right? And also allowing them to reflect and do a lot of deep digging research and get to know their grandmother a little bit more. It introduced the grandchild to Frank Sinatra because he's too
mhm,
young to know,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
But he was interested enough to do some digging and realize and try to do some research. Is, oh, my grandmother liked this dude named Frank Sinatra. Let me listen to it. So he started listening to Frank Sinatra, and he would play Frank Sinatra whenever he would go see his grandmother in the nursing home because it's all he knew to do at that point in time, right? And so then they shared Frank Sinatra, and I think it was about like as shortly before his grandmother passed, she was able to speak her grandchild's name and recognize that that was what's going on through the connection of music. And that moment, like just to watch that journey was
Mm.
honoring, right?
Oh my God, that's emotional, Casey, and to know that you are helping a lot of people in the community to heal themselves and to understand that it's not only medication that
Yeah.
would work, but there are always other types of therapy. And I think you're God's gift because you have discovered that hey, there are other options,
Hmm.
and I'm here to offer this, and this is the reason why I
Yeah.
really convinced you to come for the interview so that the world will
Yeah.
know, Casey, the
Yeah.
power of your therapy.
Yeah.
So my
Well,
next question, Casey, is was there a defining experience in your career, a single session, a client or insight that sparked the creation of your pulse of healing and setting the standard frameworks?
yeah. Um, one. Jesus. One moment. Honestly, I think I'm gonna say this, right? I don't think there was one. I know that my years of doing co-occurring work, which means I did 10 years of work with substance use and mental health diagnosis. So every client that I saw had both. They had a alcohol use disorder and then schizophrenia, right? For example, right? Also, I know that for me, and this is a transparent story, right? A lot of it, I I reflected on what I needed whenever I went through my mental health crisis, as well as how would I explain that to people in continuity of care, right? And so the pulse of healing is processing the source of the trauma, right?
Mm.
The setting the standard is about how do you uphold the standards of your growth measures? How do you set boundaries? How do you identify the boundaries? How do you identify who can assist you on your journey and elevation as opposed to who keeps you circulating perpetually in the place that you're in now, right? It's about elevation, right? So yeah, it really just became a I wanted something that gave continuity of care as opposed to I want to tell you about your trauma, then I'm gonna leave you alone.
Oh, yeah, that's
Definitely.
true.
That's great.
That's true. And Casey, what is one moment when rhythm broke through silence? A
Uh,
moment when a nonverbal child, a withdrawn neurodivergent client, or a
mm,
memory care resident finally connected?
yeah, yeah. Okay, so there was a nonverbal child in home that I would visit often, and they would make sounds, onomatopoeias. They would go, or they had this whistling sound. And so one whistle would be no, two whistles would be yes,
Oh,
right? And um, I guided the part of the sessions were the paradiddle or the paradiddle, right? And so a lot of my time was attempting to process professionally where in their throat allowed them to loosen up a little bit, to allow them to speak even just a tad bit, right? And one of the mother's just emotional desires was to hear the child say one full word, just one word. Child had not spoke at all, right? And in the very, I think it was like third month or something in the session, right? Was guiding the child through paradiddle. Now, the paradiddle was something that I had introduced like maybe I think the second month in. So we're talking like 1 month into the paradiddle, right? And um in one session, like in one moment of the paradiddle, the child said nothing else except for rah. But they did it continuously, just like it was just such a joyful thing. Now it transitioned whenever they it would say rah, but then they would also change pitch and tone. So they would say rah, then they would say rah, then they would go, "Rah." And so then they just played with pitches and tones and vocal patterns of it. And eventually, I think this was like 5, 6 years ago. The child has now, to my knowledge, and I haven't gotten a report in a while, but the child has reportedly gained 10 words that they say all the time.
that's amazing, Casey. And for our viewers, parents, caregivers, educators, leaders,
Mm.
what is one small rhythm-based practice they can start using today to help someone regulate?
Oh man, oh man, oh man. Probably just threes, just to triple it. So triple. So it would be on a surface. I'm gonna have to see if I can grab something really quickly so I can show you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Here we go. So on any surface, right? So you would go triplet, right, left. However, you play with what's called accents.
Mm-hmm.
And so the first set of triplets, you would do accent on one, which means you play louder. So you would go triplet. Then if you switch to two, this gets a little complicated, right? But then when you switch to two, you switch to accents on two. So instead of your accent being on trip, it's going to be on pull. Triplet, two. And then you do let because you go three. Triplet, hand patterns with it. So you go triplet, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That is
Maima, any
yeah.
comment from you?
Yes. And then what will you say, Casey, to someone who feels overwhelmed or wants to begin healing?
Breathe slowly
Mhm.
and deeply. The act of breathing deeply and appropriately and accurately is not a talked about subject. And so we breathe really shallow, especially in America, so much more than other countries sometimes. But in reality, like all across the globe, we breathe more shallow than what we should. Breathing deeply is liberating, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. So powerful.
Yes, yes.
Casey, thank you. Wow, your work is a reminder that healing doesn't always begin with language. Sometimes it begins with a heartbeat, a
Yeah.
breath, and a rhythm.
Yeah.
Right, Maima?
Yes. That is that that I mean this is this section the conversation we've had is so packed. If we had maybe 24 hours to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you know,
There's a lot to it. There is, but
Yeah, there is.
I'm honored to even just have this hour to talk about it and shed light
yeah,
Wow.
on it. Yeah, and I always welcome open conversation about it. I
yes.
it's yeah, it is as much of a joy as it is my work, and so I love every
Yeah,
moment of it for sure.
Yes,
yeah.
and one of the things I really admire from all, from what are the questions he's answering, giving
Yes.
examples and even illustrations and what have you. I see that like with there's the part that you talk about rhythmic rhythmic sections
Yeah.
you know, but there is that flow, there is that continuation, you talked about even the source. It's like that river, where that river could get stuck if it is not flowing freely. And I
Hmm.
see how even in those rhythmic sections, there is that continuation where you would talk with the mother, not
Mm-hmm.
giving her the impression that what was happening was outside, was totally outside herself. It's just her child. But you see that connection, and then you talk about the source. How amazing that is. How it is an eye opener that no matter how many
Right.
books we read, having someone to walk us through to see there's that flow. Then you talk about the breathing part of it, which it shows that we have to breathe as we lay,
Mm-hmm.
like that. So that is wonderful. Now,
Yeah.
thank you again, Casey, and for everyone watching. Stay connected, follow Casey, learn from his insights, and support the incredible work he's doing. Because if I personally had 24 hours with him. I will continue asking and taking notes and asking and taking notes and maybe copying some of the illustrations so that I can go over and over.
That's
But yes,
true. That's
yes,
true. And Casey, maybe, of course, I'm going to also post it, your contact details, but would you like to, let the people know how to contact you? Because I'm sure people will be reaching out to us. I have psychiatrists, associates, and psychologists who are also going to be watching this, and I will be
Yeah.
sharing the link. How do we contact you?
Yeah, email is the absolute best.
okay.
So if you want to put my email somewhere
I
in the,
will, yes, I'll
then
be
that's
posting
fine.
it.
But it is the letter CMUZE at Avenue Speak, AVENUESPEAK .info. Not .com, but .info.
Dot
Yeah,
info.
yeah, so if you want to share my email address, then that's fine. Also, my website
Yeah.
is a really good source for you to see a glimpse, a little bit more, a little bit deeper. Also, any questions you may have, simply email me and we'll figure it out.
Fantastic. And if there are any invitations for you to grace their conference, be a speaker, will you be available? Of course, it depends on the time and so will
Yeah,
you be open to that as well?
of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. So now, my dear viewers, you've heard how Casey Muze has really, he was really impressive, and I can't get over how many people he can be helping. And all change makers out there, keep leading with presence, with purpose, and with love. Thank
Yeah.
you for tuning in, and don't forget, um, keep watching us so you don't miss more stories like Casey's stories from incredible change makers around the world. And until next time, keep using your voice to create change. Maima,
Mm.
We thank you again, Casey.
Yes.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for the great insights and the impact that is continuing to have on that one person.
Hmm.
And we never can determine how many more persons are being impacted. So we say thank you, and sometimes thank you is all that we have, even if it cannot adequately say how to give the heartfelt part of what we really are grateful for. But all we have is to say thank you, thank you, thank you, and thank you, viewers, for being here. Share the story. Share the video. Any questions, you can contact us, whether through emails or in DMs or what have you. But thank you for being with us. Thanks again. Okay.
bye everyone. Until the
Bye.
next time.
Bye bye.
Bye.